I have a very, very eminent panel with me, from leading utilities, from, leading market makers and, thinkers. So, I would not spend too much time. I would like to straight away go to my panel and begin the discussion. So first, I would like to move to Mr. Ashish Khanna, CEO Tata Power Renewables. So, Mr. Khanna, you're well aware that India has set aside a target of 500 gigawatts of non-fossil fuel-based consumption by 2030, out of which we have a reasonable proportion of solar, majority of about more than 400 gigawatts, and rest being wind. So this requires, as I said, massive, large-scale investments in renewable energy sectors, both by way of equities and loans during next couple of years. So how do you see this ecosystem evolving in India? Do you think whatever is needed is coming about, and especially what is company like yours, which is at the forefront of energy transition, doing in this direction? So your opening comments, please, on this.
Thanks, Somesh, and I think you articulated the whole thing very well. I would only say that we should be proud of, from Indian perspective, where we have reached. 800% in 8 years, we have 400% growth in renewables, which is phenomenal, considering that it's a segment which falls under infrastructure. I think the way we have also moved in solar, particularly, and now even hybrid and round-the-clock investments which are happening for energy providing as a renewable source is also very nice. So I think we are on the right track. However, there are many lessons in this process. I think important factor for us from a technology standpoint is that we need to embrace the latest of the technologies. Now, currently we are the lead adopter to some extent, but since we are so price sensitive, many times the technology or the quality is compromised in view of the pricing. And we have also seen that in reverse auction, there are players who go overboard in their assumptions, and then you have questions whether those investments will actually take place and those projects will see the light of the day. I think we need to have a more mature industry of renewable here. It's relatively a new kid in the block. In the last 1 decade, we have done phenomenally well. It was not that we were non-existent in the past. For that matter, Tata Power Solar has been manufacturing the cells and modules from last 3 decades. But I say that this phenomenal growth is happening in the last 1 decade, and it is very commendable. But now we have to take the lessons into consideration on what can we do better. I think the maturity from the industry is very, very important. What we commit, what we bid, we should be able to translate into projects and then the operations which are giving the predictable returns. And when that will happen, we will also realize that this whole risk aversion, which is coming from some of the financial institutes. You see, if you look around today, as per my understanding, the public sector banks have hardly 1%, I would say, exposure towards this particular industry. Most of it is coming from private banks or financial institutes. So we need to have that sort of infrastructure in place, which gives enough confidence to the lending community that what has been projected will be achieved. It's very important for that. I think we also need to have a self-reliant as well as the manufacturing of or all the components which are going into this particular renewable sector. Because our over-dependence on imports, and in a way, it is not that the factor of only imports which challenges us, but the foreign exchange variations also doesn't help in going for a project with a predictable cost, which can give us the forecasted returns. I think it is very important for us to ring fence ourselves from all the variations which happens in this industry. If you see, we are completely dependent. If I take the example of solar, we are completely dependent on the environment here. Besides the sun, we are also dependent on imports, and when we are dependent on imports, it's predominantly commodities. Foreign exchange plays a role, variation in the copper prices plays a role, steel prices plays a role, labor rate cost plays a role. So when you are so much dependent on the external environment, it is very important that you have calculated or measured your risk very properly and have a mitigation measures for the same. Otherwise, we will have some examples which will not be good. And today, even though we are somewhere close to 175 gigawatt, we have to go a long way. And it is very critical for us to set the right examples so that we have the confidence of the lending equity, lending community, those who are investing their equity in it, and then the whole society or a community as such, which is important. Another important factor for us is by nature, renewable is a infirm power. And I need that transmission infrastructure also in place. Currently, since we have not reached the level which we intend to reach, we are still sailing along. There are plans, but you will appreciate a fact that when you are in a highly competitive industry, if a plant of 500 megawatt is just sitting idle and there is no other variable cost for a transmission line to come, or if there are grid outages, external grid outages which are impacting your plant, it has a direct impact on the profitability. Direct impact on the profitability. There's no variable cost in this other than the operating cost. So I think it is very important for us to set in place the right policies, the right infrastructure for this decade. We have done phenomenally well in the last, but like I said, this decade also requires certain next step of levels in terms of policies and investments, not only when we are developing these renewable assets, but the complete paraphernalia around it, including the evacuation part. The other important factor, which I think the government of India has done reasonably well in the recent time, is receivables. It is very important that we have whatever receivables we have considered, and the PPAs are honored in this country, but that also should be honored for long. Again, I'm saying there are such a thin margin that any change in assumptions have very adverse impact on the whole profitability of these particular projects which we are investing right now. So like I said, we need maturity from the developers so that we are not taking undue risk. We need an infrastructure which can evacuate that power. And then that will also bring confidence to the community which is investing or which is lending for it. It is very important. And at the end of the day, the receivers also should behave in the manner which is a part of the agreement. If we have all of these things, and if we can ring fence ourselves from the external factors, predominantly on the imports of material, availability of materials, I think we have what insight and in reality to what we intend to achieve. But like I said, words come cheap. Our past performance is commendable, but we have taken targets which are much, much bigger than the past in this scenario. We have a business in place, we have a potential in place. The only thing which can go wrong is our own wrong decisions in this and some of the actions. And I think we have to maintain this climate, which is very important for all the stakeholders in this particular segment. Like I said, in the lending community too, today, if you see, while we are looking for such a huge investment in this sector, but there are not many organizations or not even a single organization which is dedicated to this cause. Renewable per se has a very typicalities from an infrastructure standpoint. It is very different from the other energy sources too. It is very different from the roads and bridges too. But however, if you look at it, we don't have those sort of lending communities which can precisely cater to considering the risk here and the advantages here for this industry. If you are looking for such huge investments, we need those support systems to be in place too. That's all I would say, Sumesh, at this stage.
Thank you, Mr. Khanna. Thank you so much. Maturity on the part of developers, a robust evacuation infrastructure, and increased creditworthiness on the part of the distribution companies or retail companies or the receivers, as you said. All good points. So sir, as I move further, you of course head the Tata Power renewables business, but Tata Power, of course, is an integrated utility, and it is seeing all these facets. It's at the receiver's end, it is into evacuation of infrastructure, and it is also a developer. So, having seen the entire gamut of the business, how do you view the system evolving? I mean, your just first hand view. I mean, there are a couple of developers like this or integrated utilities in the country, but how do you see Tata Power as a whole playing their part in this ecosystem
I
for
think
energy transition?
I think being an integrated player helps us. It has its own pluses and minuses. Every business has their own pluses and minuses. I think having our manufacturing line from the last 30 years has actually helped us to understand and upgrade on the technology part, that how critical it is for the technology. It's not only to backstop all the risk which comes from when we are buying rather than what we are making, but also the criticality of the technology, which is very, very important for us. Being an EPC company of repute, and as of now India's largest and the biggest, it helps us to understand what it takes to bring profitability when the margins are so thin, and how the commodity variation, and what do we actually need to do to make sure that what is expected is then executed. And then you also have an experience of from a PowerPoint to execution at site at a very different level. There is a big reality which is there when you are actually on soil out there. I think the other factor which has helped us is that since we have wind assets as well as solar assets, we are much better in this hybrid game too. And we always believe that CUF helps. Having our own transmission system has given us the advantage in renewables too, where even a 42 kilometer, 400 kV lines we have been executing. That all has come being an integrated player. In one of the recent projects, we have executed a transmission lines too on this. And being in distribution companies from a Tata Power standpoint helps us to understand the dynamics of various distribution companies. How are they performing? What are the challenges? Because I won't say that everything is wrong. There are certain challenges and everyone is trying to do their best. You have to see how do you have a mitigation measures for that? And if not, would you like to stop at this stage rather than just going berserk? I think all these factors are helping us being the integrated player. And now we are even setting up a 4 gigawatt cell and 4 gigawatt module manufacturing, predominantly with our experience of the past, being in the manufacturing for such a long time. So I think these steps helps us. And as I have seen this industry growing from rooftop, which was predominantly earlier a B2B market, is now going to B2C market, thanks to the climate change and sensitivity of every individual towards it. We have also seen now the emergence of a B2B market or a C&I market in utility scale projects too, where our open access and group captive is also evolving. And being a part of this industry, having a distribution experience, transmission experience, as well as renewable experience, helped us to succeed in the new and various other opportunities which are coming. Having microgrids and a pump business helps us in serving the community, which is also a part of the Tata ethos and values out there. So like you said, that there are many segments within this whole renewable sector. Being integrated not only helps in cost effectiveness, but also helps in technology upgradation, operating the plants, thermal earlier and renewable now, is again, there are advantages on these fronts. My experience is that I don't think so. Skill is an issue. I think we have enough number of people, and the average age today, we are blessed to have much lower than any other country in this world for that matter, as well as the skill set is concerned. And we have huge number of millions of technical people available and coming forward. I think the challenge which we will be facing is how are we upscaling them? Because the technology changes very fast in this industry, unlike the other sources of energy. If you consider a typical oil and a gas, then those who are running the catalytic converters remain as it is for the duration. The wind, the solar, the storage, all of it is changing very fast. After every few years at the manufacturing setup, you have a new technology. Operating wise, you have a new technologies now. Robotic cleaning is coming. Now we have drones which are helping us. E-security is coming. So I think the challenge which India should concentrate on, not the people who are required as well as their basic skill set is concerned. How do we invest in upskilling them continuously? That would be more critical. Generally, we have a culture where we push the child into the water expecting them to swim. They many times swim too. But I think for this industry, we need to make them learn the different backstrokes, freestyles, and all those things in that process. That would be very critical for our success. I don't foresee any challenge with the basic requirements.